Hey, I got to talk a little bit about this NFL settlement because it really, hits a lot of the chords that I've been talking about with respect to the litigious nature of our society and the danger of being an employer and the way the legal system is twisted in favor of employees to the detriment of their employers. And here you have the NFL, which is forced to agree to a $750 million settlement with 4,500 retired NFL players. Now, I'm hearing a lot of people saying, oh, the NFL got off, they got off easy on this because, they're not paying it up front, they're paying it over time. And, of course, that's certainly better that they're paying it over time instead of up front. And they're saying, well, as a percentage of their revenues, it's maybe 3% of their annual revenues, so it's no big deal. They got off easy. That's not the point. If somebody mugs me and they don't take all the money out of my wallet, I'm not going to say, well, I got off easy. It could have been worse. I mean, it doesn't change the fact that I was mugged. Maybe I can say, gee, I guess it could have been worse. They could have beat me too. So I should be thankful that I only got mugged and not mugged and beaten. Look, the basis of this lawsuit was that the NFL did not disclose to the players how risky it was to play football. They didn't specifically tell them about the risk of concussions, where concussions are pretty common in football. I mean, if you're a football player and you don't know that it's risky, then, you got bigger problems. Every football player knows that football is risky. Come on. Your people are constantly smashing into each other. They're hitting each other. That's the name of the game. It's a physical contact sport. It's clearly risky. The fact that the NFL didn't say that it's even riskier than you think, who cares? It's risky. And these players that are in the NFL, they didn't start playing football at the NFL. That's the end of their career. Let's say you get drafted to the NFL and you're 22 years old, 23 years old. You come out of 5 years in college. A lot of them do 5 years. They redshirt a year. You come out, and the typical player, maybe his whole career is 5 or 6 years. But he's been playing football since he was 6 years old. These guys start out in the Pee Wee leagues. They play all through elementary school, high school, college. Why aren't they suing the high schools and the colleges? They just go after the employers because they weren't employed by the high schools and the colleges. So you don't get that employer, I'm going to sue the big rich villain. So they're suing the NFL. But clearly, the players know that this is risky. Now, the point should be, would these players have done anything different? Let's assume that the NFL actually had some information that they weren't discussing that said, hey, these concussions are worse than we thought. Let's say that they had basically sat all the players down in a room and they said, here is this information that we now have from studying the effect of concussions on our players. We just want to be upfront with you and give you all this information. Would any of those players have said, okay, thanks for sharing that information. I don't want to play football. Tear up my contract. I'm going to go get a job as a truck driver. No way. It wouldn't have changed anything. They all would have played the game. There are a lot of benefits to being a football player. And there's some trade-offs. It's a cost-benefit analysis like every other occupation. Yeah, there's a risk that you might have some brain damage later on in life. You're certainly going to have some damage to your limbs from getting beaten up so often. But people are willing to accept that for the perks of being a football hero, right? Everybody wants to be the football hero. You get all the girls, you get the admiration of kids. You're a big shot in your community. You can make endorsements. You can make all sorts of money. You get fame. You get glory. It's fun to be the football hero. But yeah, there's a negative to that. That, when you get older, your bones might ache. You might feel it. You might be a little slow in your step, and maybe you're going to get a little punchy from having too many hits to the head. Everybody knows this going in. To say that now they get to sue the NFL because they didn't tell them exactly how dangerous it is. Now, what about their doctors? What about these NFL players? Don't they have doctors? Didn't their doctors ever say, maybe you should stop playing football? I think you're taking a couple of too many shots to the head. Why don't they go back and sue their doctors? They all know how risky it is. They break their bones. I mean, there are a lot of parents that won't let their kids play football because they don't want them to get hurt. If you don't want to get hurt, if you're not willing to get those concussions, then look for another line of work. Maybe play another sport that isn't as rough. Go out for tennis, right? Go out, play golf. You don't want to get hurt, right? If you want to play football, you're going to get hurt. Don't sue the NFL because they didn't tell you that it was a rough sport and you might get hurt. But, of course, they had to settle this. If I was on a jury, I wouldn't give them a dime. But, do I feel badly that some of these athletes were irresponsible with their money? They earned a bunch of money and then they blew it. They didn't save it. They didn't invest it. And they certainly paid a lot of taxes, which I don't think these athletes should be taxed. I don't think anybody should be taxed. But let them take that money that they earn and let them invest it. Let them have their own medical plans or something. But, I mean, it's absurd. But, again, this is the problem with our society. It's the nature of the society. You employ somebody, and there's a million ways you're going to get sued. And even if you didn't do anything wrong, you're still going to have to write a huge check just to get out from under the legal liability, to get out from under the costs and the uncertainty. Because had this thing gone to trial, just like the bogus lawsuit against Merrill Lynch by all the black brokers saying that they were discriminated against when they weren't. But you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you were actually the victim of discrimination. All you have to do is allege it, and you're going to extract a big check out of your employer. And so just like that, it just shows you how difficult it is, how dangerous it is to employ anybody. And so the message of all these kind of lawsuits is if you want to minimize the legal judgments against you, if you want to minimize the amount of lawyers in your life, because believe me, there's nothing worse than being sued. I mean, getting involved in a lawsuit just drains you. Your mental energy. It makes you so unproductive. That's why so many people just pay to settle, because they want to end the agony. They want to get on with their lives. And so they write the check, and then they move forward. But what does this say? Again, it sends the message out there, don't hire people. Just don't do it. Start a business. Try to figure out how to run the business without hiring anybody. And if you have to hire somebody, hire as few people as possible. Hire people hire people that you can trust, so that you don't think you're going to get sued. If you can outsource it, fine. If you can get people in India to do the job, then do that. If you can find a way to substitute a machine, do that. Even if it means you make less money. You have less aggravation and less headaches, so don't hire people. That's it. 855-4-SCHIFF. We got another half hour coming up here on the Peter Schiff Show. It is Open Line Friday, Freeform Friday. We will be right back.